Okay, my name's Anna, and today I'm going to be showing you how to write Prog166d, still below minimum wage. Alright, so the program description is right here. An employer wants to see a breakdown of employee costs for 3, 4, 5, and 6 employees who make $4 an hour. The employer wants to see their total wages if they work 10, 20, 30, or 40 hours a week. When you're finished, submit the completed program to your instructor. Alright, so we're going to be using output and loop control. And let's go ahead and look at the sample output so we see what we're getting at. So we're going to need wages for 3 employees, 4 employees, 5 employees, and 6 employees, and within each of those we have 10, 20, 30, and 40 hours worked. So let's just look at one of those. So for 3 employees and 10 hours worked, the wages are $120. This makes sense because 3 employees times 10 hours worked per employee is 30 total hours, times $4 an hour is going to give you 120. And then you use the same logic for each of these. So right now, try to think about how many loops we're going to use and which one we're going to have nested inside the other. Alright, I'm going to assume you've had some time to think. If not, you can pause the video. But I would use 2 loops because you have 1 loop for the employees and then 1 loop for the hours worked. And then I would nest the hours worked loops inside the employees loops because you list the employees and then each time you list an employee, you have all the hours and the wages worked. If that makes sense. You can comment if that doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, oops. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning. So if you haven't yet, you can create a new project for your program, but if you already have that set up, you can go ahead and create a new class. So this is 166d. Alright, so go ahead and open that up. There you go. You can delete all this default stuff. Assume your instructor is going to want you to set up some documentation like program, version, etc. So make sure you get that done. And then we're just going to go ahead and create our constructors. So we have public class Prog166d, oopsie, public static void main. Alright, so here's our basic frame. Alright, so first we're going to have to set up some numbers. These are all going to be whole numbers, so we can use integers. Let's see, the first thing we're going to have to set up is something for the hours worked. You don't have to, it could just be 4, but for our sake, let's create a variable for it. So let's say each person's salary is going to be $4, so let's call it each. Each equals 4. Everyone's salary is $4. Alright, so take a minute now and declare the other integers. Oh, sorry, the other variables. Think about what you're going to need and how you're going to set that up. If you need to, you can pause the video. Alright, so looking at the program, it says you have a number of employees, that's a changing variable, and then the hours per week they work, that's the changing variable, and then the total wage for that week. So that's 3 other wages we're going to have to be using. Oh no, hold on. No. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Alright, so going back to our program, let's declare those 3. So integer, let's call it wage, hours, and total wage. Pretty straightforward. Alright, so now we're going to be creating our 2 loops. So like we decided earlier, we're going to be setting up the wages loop inside the employee loop. So I'm going to set one of them up and then try to create the next one on your own. So so since this is the number of employees, we want to go from lowest to highest. So let's say integer e for employees equals 3 because that's what we're going to start at, and you want to go all the way up till 6 as it says on the instructions. And then let's increment that by 1. So remember there's different types of loops that you can use, but I think a for loop is most effective in this case. But you can also experiment with like the while or do while loops. Alright, try setting up the next loop with the number of hours. Okay, so this is what I have for the next loop. I just call it hours, and we've already declared hours, so we don't need to declare it again. Hours less than 4 hours. So here's the two nested loops that I used. Notice that for hours, I did hours plus equals 10 for the increment. That's basically the same thing as saying hours equals the previous number of hours plus 10. It's just a more compact way of writing that. Alright, so let's go back to our instructions. So we want it to look like wages for 3 employees. Okay, that's pretty simple. So let's do system out print line. Oops. And then let's set up a new line just to make it look nicer. So wages for, and then the number of employees, which is E, employees. And then let's do another line just for formatting purposes. Alright, and then the wage is going to be the initial wage, which is $4 an hour, times the number of employees. So each is the initial wage, times E, times the number of employees. Okay. Alright, and then we're going to calculate total wage by doing... Oh, actually, try to figure that out on your own first. And in a moment, I will reveal it. Okay, so the total wage would be the wage times the number of hours worked, because that's the only factor you haven't factored in yet. Because the total wage is going to be initial wage, which is dollars per hour, times the number of employees, times the hours worked per employee. Okay. So now we're just going to print that out. So system out print line. Let's refer back to our handy instructions to see what kind of format they want. So it says for 10 hours worked, the wages are $120. Alright, so basically we're just going to say 4 hours worked, the wages are total wage dollars. Alright, so let's go ahead and write that. 4 hours worked, the wage is total wage dollars. Wages are. Alright, so that should be our entire program. Let's compile it. That does not work. Hours? Oh, right. We need to set it as something. My bad. Alright, so hours equals 10. Alright, now it likes it. Okay, so let's go to BlueJ, and now that it's compiled, run it and see if it gives us what we want. And that is exactly what we want. So you can go ahead and copy and paste that, because my teacher wanted a sample output at the end of every program. If yours doesn't, then ignore this part. But, I mean, it's nice just to have, to make your programs a little more user-friendly when someone's reading them. So that is how to do Program 166D. I hope this helped you, and thanks for watching!